life. Am I right? Hello, my name is Robin Norgren. Welcome to Josie's Art School episode number 196. We are on our way to 200 art lessons over here on this channel. I hope that you are subscribed. I hope you have the notification bell on. I do at least 2 to 3 videos every single week because I wholeheartedly believe that creativity is what produces hope, among other things. So glad you stopped by. All right, today we are going to create a seahorse. You can see my examples right here. This is one like a portrait of a seahorse, right? And then this one has a friend. And so these are two options that you can create, and especially if you have bought an an art kit from me, you will have these examples in your art box. But if you don't have an art kit from me, that is totally fine. You can go and get yourself some paper, get yourself some art materials, so either watercolor paints, Sharpies, markers, crayons, oil pastels, acrylic paints. If you got the art kit, you have tempera paints in there, but of course you can also add some of your art supplies in and make more of a rich experience and add whatever you like because this is your creation. All right, so let me go over what it is that I'm going to be using as you follow along with me. And if you are just here because you love the idea of creating a seahorse and you already have an idea of what you want to do, feel free to do that and then just maybe check in every once in a while and see if there's something I'm doing that you would like to add to your creation, right? All right, so I am going to be working on an 11 by 14 piece of paper so that you can see it on your screen. But again, you can use any size paper that you want. You can use canvas or not canvas. In the kits, there is a canvas panel, so you can just choose one of those and use your tempera paint in there and you're good to go. Also, if you have a kit, you have a color wheel in there. So some of these colors are quite vibrant, but they're not your typical primary colors of red and yellow and orange, or sorry, red and yellow and blue, but you do have in your possession, not only the primary colors, but black and white. So do your own color mixing whenever you choose, okay? All right, so let's go ahead and get started. I kind of love the idea of what we see in this example here. So I'm going to be following this pattern to a certain extent, but you don't have to do that. Again, you do what you like and just follow along and maybe just listen as I'm talking. You know, sometimes I like to feel like I have someone painting with me, so I'm just really glad that you're here. All right, let's get started. All right, so as always, I like to put a dividing line or a grid on my paper. So I'm going to put a dashed line down the middle going both ways. You do not have to do that, but this just gives me a sense, like for example, with this painting, if I wanted to make sure that both of these can fit on my paper, I want to make sure that I'm putting one maybe on this side of the quadrant and then one down below. And that way I know that I have space to create what it is that I want, right? Okay, so from here, I'm actually going to do a forward-facing seahorse like this one. So how it starts is it's more of a hook like this. Now again, bear with me because since I have a Sharpie, I'm not going to be erasing. So feel free that if you have a pencil, go ahead and sketch this and that way you can change it if you don't like how it comes out, okay? So from here, I'm going to do the snout. So put a little bit more of a curve here. And it almost looks like, you guys, have you ever seen those craft scissors and how they kind of come back up and around? So just like that. And then you're going to bring the curve right here. So this is, I guess you would call it the snout, right? So you can add a little line there if you want. You can add the eye in. I love this one. Someone made it into a unicorn seahorse. And how fun is that? I'm going to add an eye right here. Okay, so from there, this could go in a lot of different directions, couldn't it? This almost has a feel of like a duck or a seagull. So again, this is how what I love about drawing is I can start with something like this, and I might even go into a different direction. But for today, we're going to go ahead and make that seahorse. So we're going to come up and around. And there's your basic shape for the seahorse, right? Of course, I've got to add tons of things to it because right now it's like, I don't know. Do I like it? Do I not like it? All right, let's make one going in the opposite direction. So I'll do the same thing that I did over here. So if you're doing something like this, you'll just see that I've switched it, right? So I'm gonna make the shape of a candy cane or just a regular walking stick. And then I'm going to add that snout. And then come back around. And then come down. And then again, that curve is an important detail for the seahorse. All right, so those are my two basic shapes right there. And then from here, I can start to really play. So you can see there's lots of fun designs in here, right? So I'm going to add the eye. You might even experiment and maybe do a different type of eye on this one, right? Now for this one almost looks like it's a king. So I'm going to do something like that. Go around. There we go. Now it's starting to take the shape. And then little diadems on it. Okay. Then from here, looks like we have a little bit of a pattern going on even in the body. So there's that initial line here. And then if I want to add some pattern this way. So again, let this inspire you, or maybe you just like the look of what you see here and you want to add the same to yours. Feel free to do that as well. I really like the way the lines divide, so you can make different choices as you add your color, right? Now on this particular one, it looks almost like it has like a fin of some sort. So if you wanted to try something like that here, you could put that up there. So let's make this one, let's make this one a unicorn seahorse as well. How fun is that? Okay. And then you could do some sort of pattern down the back too. Just play around with the pattern. Maybe a dragon unicorn. That's fun, right? Okay, and then from here, maybe I want to do similar lines. Maybe I want to add some hearts. Heart scales, right? Have you ever seen a seahorse up close? I feel like I have, but it's been a very, very long time. All right, so from here, this is my basic look for my seahorses. It's not that hard, right? Pretty simple, right? And then from here, obviously you can add more patterns. So there's different patterns in here. But now we need to decide, like, what do we want to do as far as the seascape, right? So in this one, as you can see, it's been divided off, and there's starfish and there's just regular fish. There's some seaweed, some algae, that sort of thing. But in this one, this looks like we've just broken it up with horizon lines, and then we're just creating a pattern in the middle. Now I kind of like this one, so I'm going to do maybe a combination of both. So maybe we'll add here maybe some sandy area like this, and again, you can choose what you'd like to do. Maybe add one of the starfish. Okay, you could do a little pattern on the starfish. Okay, and then from here I can add a little bit more. Now I'm going to do this with my Sharpie just so you can see it, but again, I wouldn't necessarily want to do that because I don't want to see this black line at the end. But you could break it up in a couple of different ways, right? And if I wanted to, I could throw another starfish in there if I wanted to. Because you know, it's just so fun to make a starfish, right? Okay, so I have one right there. You could add some algae. And there's a little bit of algae here. You You can do it in both places. Maybe they're hiding behind the algae. I'm not going to hide mine just because I love the design of my seahorses. And this is my basic pattern right here. So now once I have this seated here, let me show you what kind of supplies I'm working with. So I do have some watercolor paint. This is a brand from our Michael's Craft Store. I have some Crayola crayons. And I have oil pastels. But you can use anything that you have on hand, right? Even with this, if you wanted to really challenge yourself, you could just use your Sharpie and just maybe make some defining lines and create just using any types of Sharpies that you have on hand. I happen to have a black one and I have a purple one, and they come in all different colors, so you could decide to do that as well. But for now, what I want to do is I really love the design on my seahorse, so I want to get right in there and start coloring my seahorse. So I really love the red on this example, so I'm going to do the red like I see on there. And for right now, because sometimes when you have so many places to fill with colors, you might feel a bit overwhelmed. So what I like to do is I like to pick a place where I'm really confident of what I'm doing, and I make that the first place that I color. Now, something to keep in mind, if you are using different types of mediums, like wet mediums and dry mediums, you want to be very careful of where your arm placement is, right? So you might want to work from left to right or top to bottom. Or bottom to top, and just be mindful of where your arms are going so that you don't ruin all this beautiful work that you've created. Okay, so from here I'm going to add some green. Another idea you might consider is if you want to make more realistic looking seahorses, you can always Google seahorses, and you could either add more details that make it more authentic looking, or you could even look online to see different colors of seahorses and try to replicate that in your design. I actually haven't seen, I think I mentioned this, I haven't seen a seahorse in a while, so that's kind of something I think I'm going to do once we're finished here today. So there we are. So far, I'm really loving how it's coming together here. In one of the other videos I made this week, I did a windmill drawing. And you know how sometimes you have your supplies, but you notice that there's certain ones you never pick up and use? Well, this beautiful magenta that I'm using right now, I noticed that it was like never touched. And so I almost didn't even know what the color would look like. And now I'm kind of obsessed with this oil pastel. Let's see, does it tell me a name? Oh, it's magenta. I do like magenta. I just don't know why I wasn't gravitating to it. Do you ever get like that? Where you're really in kind of, I won't say it's a color rut, but you have like your favorites for a while, and it's for a long while, and then suddenly you're like, gosh, do I even like those colors together anymore? Okay, so this one, again, another oil pastel, is a pale orange. I saw that in a pretty, I don't know, I don't know if you'd call it specific, but very much like it was in my face kind of way, because I am super into sunflowers and like the oranges and the burnt siennas and things like that. And in 2021, I created like my first official vision board, like went all out and did all the, you know, the details and all this kind of stuff. And I had decided to paint the background, you know, kind of whatever struck me. And I used that particular color, like a kind of a marigold kind of color. Well, it was so funny because in 2022, I decided I want to do a vision board like that and just kind of have them side by side. And I picked my paints, and I did notice that I was kind of going in a different direction. When I put it side by side, the color I had was like a mint green. So it was just very, again, looking and just realizing what a change I had made in my color palette in a year. And I couldn't really point to anything in particular that caused me to change my preference, but I don't know, it just feels more light and more bright and springy. And, you know, again, one of those things where, you know, if you ask some people their favorite color has been their favorite color forever, it was just kind of nice to go, oh, I guess I do have the potential to change. We all have the potential to change, right? Okay, I have to properly color these red hearts, right? Maybe I'll give the horn a red color as well. All right, well, I'm getting close to finishing the basics that I wanted to add. And so from here, I think I'm going to go ahead and start seeing if I can replicate what I see here. So this is what I see in essence. I see that there is kind of a greenish color here, and then like a pink color here, and then like a light purple here. And then what I'm probably going to do, because I don't have tempera paint handy, is I'm probably going to take my oil pastel and just pick a darker color to go over the top. So let's see how this goes. And I invite you to do it as well if you feel interested in doing it. Okay, so let's start right here. So here's the thing, kind of tricky being on the wall, is I want to make sure it does not drip down into the other parts. It's about time, you guys, that I get a new watercolor paint. It's not as vibrant as it used to be. All right, so let's see if this holds up. So if I paint this green, and then I take my oil pastel, and I add, okay, there you go. Yeah, it gets kind of the same effect. I just need to be careful that doesn't tear my paper, right? Because the paint, obviously with watercolor paint, my paper is a little bit wet, but I kind of like how that looks. All right, so there you go. I've tested it out for you. Feel free to do it. So of course you can use just regular crayons in the same way that you use oil pastels to get that water resistance. I have a preference for oil pastels just because I like the vibrance of an oil pastel. And again, one of the beauties of the times we live in, you can get a set of oil pastels for a pretty reasonable price, all things being considered. And they really do last you a very long time. I honestly want to say I've had this set of oil pastels, and I use them pretty regularly. I want to say over a year. Now I will say, because I use oil pastels with kids, and of course, never fails, I always think to myself, how is it that you've broken all of the crayons or the oil pastels in your set? I just don't understand. But again, I think it's when it's your own, you have more of a light touch. But when you're using somebody else's, you just kind of, use it however you use it, I suppose. Yeah, I actually like that. Okay, so I think I'm going to add a little more yellow. I feel like I want a little more pop here in this painting. So I'm going to add yellow. So again, did you notice how I left some spaces open on my seahorses? And part of that is I want to let, and I know this sounds kooky, but I really believe it. I want to let the painting speak to me as I'm creating it. And of course, I'm not saying it's necessarily an audible thing, but I just had an urge as I was creating that yellow, that green and that blue together, that yellow would really work nicely. And so there you go. It again is not necessarily right or wrong. It's just in this particular moment as I'm working with this painting, I made a decision to go with a vibrant color, right? Okay, so let's see if I can do that same thing. I'm probably not going to make it super bright just because I don't know if I have an oil pastel that's really going to show up very well on the red, but we'll see. And then I also need to think about what I want to paint the seaweed. I think I might go with black, just because I do like the idea of grounding the painting a little bit, and I know black will do that. I think what I'm going to start doing, because I always tell you that you can use whatever supplies that you want. So if you have markers or if you have even colored pencils, feel free to use those. I think I'm I'm going to start adding those into my videos so that you can see me working with those and see that you can get just as good of a result with just using your regular markers and color. I probably won't use colored pencils because it might not be bright enough on the screen, but I think markers will definitely be a nice addition to what it is that we do here. All right, so there I have the red, and I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to use a brown and see what we think about that. Now, I'm still not sure what color I'm going to add to that seahorse. Okay. I think I'm going to go ahead and add in, I'm going back and forth. Maybe I'll try some purple and see if I like that. Oh, I feel like that's too light. Okay, I'm going to come back and add some black. Again, this is the beauty about, you just try a little test area, see what you like. I think probably the rule of thumb is you just don't want to go too dark too quickly because that'll be a little tricky unless you're using, like a paint. Still, I mean, it is doable to fix it, if you will. I always would challenge you is don't, if you can help it, don't throw your paper away. And I do this, this has been a rule, honestly. This has been a rule in every classroom that I've been in. And maybe you can relate if you teach kids or if you have children at home. If they think they have access to another piece of paper because they messed something up, man, oh man, do they always need that extra piece of paper. I always had a rule in my classroom that, and mind you, it depends. Some children are very sensitive and very much perfectionist. But the rule was that I will only give you an extra piece of paper to change it because you don't like how it is one time in the year. That's it. So think about that. 10 months. And I usually see the students, at least in the K through 6 school I was in, I saw them once a week. So in essence, 40 times we would be together. You can have a do-over one time. And believe it or not, and the other rule that I always said is let's wait. Let's not throw it away. Let's hold on to it and look at it next week. And sure enough, either A, they don't even remember what they didn't like about it, or B, they end up seeing it and they love what it looks like. So such a good reminder for us, right? That, sometimes you just need a little water, you need a little sleep, you need to just walk away and come back at a later time. All right. So what do you think? You're sitting at home and you're doing your painting. Are you looking at the screen and going, Robin, use this color. This will bring it all together. Oh, I really do love this green. I'm not going to lie. Okay, I think what I might do, just because, water and blue, I think I might go turquoise on that seahorse and see what I think on that. All right. So as we're finishing up here, I want to remind you that I do have art kits for sale, as well as sewing kits, doll making kits, and they're all available on my website. You can click the link in the description or Google Josie's Art School and you'll be able to find them. And I send them out within 48 hours. And this is also part of a kit that I carry. But you never have to buy the kits, but it's always nice to give them as gifts. And it's also nice to have everything all in one place. You don't have to gather everything up. And of course, obviously the videos are free, so I'd love your support in any way that you see fit. Spread the word about me. Buy one of my kits and send them as gifts to others. All is appreciated. Okay, I love this decision to make that turquoise. All right, so I have this last space here on the bottom. I think I'm going to go with a gray. I almost like the idea, if we really want to stay in make-believe, that the seahorse is over on some sandy beach somewhere. All right, well, here we go. I'm putting my finishing touches on. I am so happy that you took the time to come and create with me today. Make sure and like, share, and subscribe, and I will see you back here on my next video. Make sure and hit the notification button. It's a bell, and they'll give you a notification that our next video is up on the channel.